the most common question. What's the difference between RAM and ROM? What is the difference between RAM and ROM? RAM and ROM both are primary memories. RAM and ROM both are primary memories. It means without RAM or a ROM, system won't boot. Okay, so there are primary memories. Again, RAM, random access memory, ROM, read-only memory. Random access memory, read-only memory, right? Next, RAM store data temporarily. The ROM data, the data in the ROM is permanent data. What are the data in the ROM chip? That is permanent data. What are the RAM data which is going inside the RAM? That is temporary. RAM is an example of volatile memory. ROM is an example of non-volatile memory. RAM is an example of volatile memory. ROM is an example of non-volatile memory. So what is meant by volatile memory? When your system is shut down, power off, the data in the volatile memory devices, will be lost. Like your system is shut down, what are the data in the RAM will be completely lost. Okay. So what is a volatile memory? Once the device is down, once device is power off, the data in the volatile memory device is lost. Data lost. What is meant by non-volatile memory? Non-volatile memory means even the data will be remains available in the device, even the power is off. Even you cut the power, you shut down the system. So what are the data in the ROM chip will remains like that only. Okay. So what is a non-volatile memory? Once your device is off, also the data remains in the device, in the non-volatile memory device. Next. Now, what are other examples of non-volatile memory devices? Hard disk, SSDs, pen drives, SD cards, these are all non-volatile memory devices only. Again, the RAM actually a module, so we can able to insert that RAM into your system. We can remove the RAM, we can insert the RAM, we can add more RAM to the existing RAM, we can replace existing RAM also, we can do it. So RAM can be changeable in your system, but ROM cannot be changed. It's a fixed chip on your motherboard. So you like a RAM, you have already 4 GB RAM is there. You can add another 4 GB, it become 8 GB RAM. Okay. So RAM is, we can able to add new RAMs, we can replace existing one like that we can do. But ROM is not, it is fixed on the motherboard. When motherboard manufacturing time only, people purchase a ROM chip and put it on the motherboard. They put instructions and data inside the motherboard, fixed instructions. You can't store any data in the ROM chip. You can't store any data in the ROM chip. Okay. So like that, in the computer wise. Okay, in a real time, really you purchase one ROM chip. Once you put any instructions in a ROM chip, we can't erase it also. Okay, so that's the ROM chip. That's why. So whenever the system manufacturing time, motherboard manufacturing time, so the manufacturer put all the details inside this ROM chip and put it on the motherboard. That's it. We can't change it all. Of course, ROM related issues can be resolved by changing ROM. We can change the ROM, but not you and me. Okay, only in the service center, people will can able to change the ROM chip. Any equivalent if they find it. Okay. Yeah, simple. What is RAM and ROM? Very important points are these things. Random access memory, read-only memory. Both are primary memories. Okay, RAM and ROM, both are primary memories. Random access memory, read-only memory. RAM store data temporarily. ROM data is permanent data. RAM is an example of volatile memory. ROM is an example of non-volatile memory. Okay. So what is meant by volatile memory? When system is down, the the volatile memory device data in the volatile memory device is lost. So when there is that system is shut down, no data in the RAM. That's a simple one example. Non-volatile memory devices, meaning even the power is off, power is disconnected, data remains in the device, non-volatile memory device. Example, hard disk, SSD, pen drives, these all carries the data, even you connect or disconnect from the system. Okay. Guys, understand RAM and ROM difference? So one of the most commonly asked interview question. Okay. Next, again, RAM. Random access memory, also called as primary memory, also called as physical memory. Okay. So RAM, random access memory, memory, main memory, primary memory, physical memory. So it's not primary. Primary means RAM and ROM. So you can say physical memory, main memory, total memory. Okay. Her RAM, memory, all are same words only. Okay. RAM store data temporarily. Your instructions and data stores in the RAM only. For example, so when I open this browser, the browser application, that instructions and data will go and store in the RAM. From RAM, it will give it to the CPU. Okay. The data which is, see, this data also will be stored in the RAM. If I close this one, it will be gone from the RAM. For example, you see, this is, yeah, what is this? A paintbrush. When I open the paintbrush related application related instructions and data stores in the RAM. Now still it is in the RAM only. Okay, what are the data is inside? That the data related information is also in the RAM because currently running process it is. Once I close it, it will be gone from the RAM. So to clean up the RAM, you don't require to shut down the system. So simple. If you close that applications also, that application related data and application data also will be removed from your RAM. Okay. So that's a RAM stores data temporarily. That programs, your instructions, data, everything stores in the RAM only. RAM is an example of volatile memory. It meaning is when system is power is available, that time only RAM will store the data. If power is off, RAM data will be lost. In this RAM, we have two types. One is static RAM, another one is dynamic RAM. This static RAM, also called as SRAM, is a cache memory, is a cache memory which is inside of CPU. Means we don't use SRAM. Already in the CPU, there is a cache memory. You see in L3 cache memory, that cache memory is nothing but SRAM. That's SRAM is built inside of CPU. SRAM is built based on pure form of transistor. That is heavy, high speed data transactions will be done with the SRAM only. So it is built inside of CPU. Another one is dynamic RAM. This dynamic RAM is not pure form of transistor. It's a combination of transistor, capacitor, resistor type. So it is slower than your SRAM. Of course, what RAM we are using actually, we are inserting and removing, that is DRAM, means dynamic RAMs only. These DRAMs further developed into synchronous dynamic RAM, SDRAM. Again, next version is DDR-SDRAM scale, double data rate SDRAM. Then DDR2, DDR3, DDR4, DDR5. Currently in the market, DDR4 and DDR5. So what are the currently available in market? Or currently in the market demand is DDR4 and DDR5. Very old systems, we use DDR3, but still DDR3 is also there, but not currently if you purchase any laptop or a desktop. It may be suitable for DDR5 or DDR4 only. Mostly not for a DDR3. If it is a older system, older computer, maybe DDR3. But in a recent last 4 or 5 years, it is DDR4 or DDR5. Last 3 years, it is DDR5 only. Okay. 12th generation onwards, DDR5 support is there. 11th generation up to 11th and 12th. Up to 11th and 12th, it is DDR4 only. Okay. So what are the RAM we are using? Most of the cases is either DDR4 or DDR5 only. Even RAM also certain specific. Either you want to purchase a RAM or you want to see your existing RAM. What are the things you must check it? What is your size of the RAM? What is my RAM size? Go to Task Manager, Performance, Memory. What is my total RAM? Is 16 GB RAM. 16 GB RAM. 2 of 2 means my system having 2 RAM slots. Both are full. It means 8 plus 8 GB RAM. It is totally 16 GB RAM. Out of 16 GB RAM, availability RAM is only 3.6 GB because of I open lot of other applications. Maybe because of that one, it is showing like that. Okay. So if I close any unused applications like this, then my RAM availability is increases. Even I can close this one. So availability RAM is increases. Means see, if I close that application, availability RAM is increased. So why? Because of that loads on my system. Even I'm closing this Word application, see, availability RAM increases. If I close this virtual machine, another 2 GB increases. Okay, closing of application or closing of unused tabs. So also it is helps us to understand this. Next again, what is the total size? What is your RAM size? Your system RAM size. My system RAM size is 16. What is yours? What is your processor? What is my processor is i5 10th generation. What is yours? Check it. Okay. So see the total RAM size as well as if you want to buy a RAM, so you will see the size first. Okay. Is it suitable for your system or not? Right. Like speed of the RAM. RAM speed. Okay. So my RAM speed is speed 2667 means actually it is 2666. 2666 or 2667. Okay, that is my RAM speed, RAM clock speed. Check the RAM clock speed, RAM model. So my RAM model is DDR4 RAM is in this system, DDR4. I have my old laptop that is DDR3. Okay, so that is a RAM model. Check the what model and voltage level. Different RAMs, their voltage means operating voltage is different. So some RAMs are 1.5 volts, some are 3 volts. 3 volts means high voltage, 1.5 volts means it is low voltage RAM. Mostly the laptop RAMs are low voltage RAMs we are using. Okay. So when you see the RAM, so check it. What is the total size of the RAM? What is the speed of the RAM, clock speed of the RAM? What is the model of the RAM and voltage levels? Okay. These are the RAM stuff. Guys, understand up to here? RAM, what to check in the RAM? Want to buy a RAM, what are the things you have to check it? Or if you want to check what is your existing RAM information. Next one. Next one. How to upgrade the RAM or replace the RAM. How to upgrade the RAM or replace the RAM. So how many RAM slots available in your system? As I already said, in my laptop, I have 2 RAM slots on my motherboard. I have a 2 RAM slot, both are full. So I can't add one more RAM. Okay. I have to replace existing RAM, but I can't add a new RAM. So it is depends upon your motherboard, number of slots available. In my laptop, I have a DDR4 RAM. but I want to put a DDR5 RAM or DDR3 RAM. Yes. My motherboard does not support a DDR5. It's a,
ఇప్పుడు తీసుకున్నాయి కదా పాతి
అక్కడ
విజయ్ కేబుల్స్
కిందన డబ్బా ఉంటుంది. 1 second. క్యాబిన్ ఓపెన్ క్యాబిన్ ఉంది కదా, కూర్చునే క్యాబిన్ ఉందా? నేను ఇక్కడ కూర్చుంటానండి, క్యాబిన్ ఉంది కదా, అది ఓపెన్ చేస్తే కనిపిస్తుంది. అదే అది అడిగండి, ఇక్కడ అక్కడే ఉన్నాం. Sorry, guys. Sorry, for a distance. Okay. So, is my motherboard supporting DDR5 or DDR4? Based on that only, I have to choose my RAM. Next, CPU specification. Last part, we have seen CPU information from Intel. Like that, go to the CPU, manufacturing details, CPU details, and this what RAM model it will support. The CPU should be support. What model it will support? What speed it will support? Size, total size. For my laptop, total size is 64 support it is there. Okay. So in my old laptop, it is only 32 it will support. So I can put 16 plus 16 maximum. Okay. Or 32 one single I can able to put it. So in my laptop, it's 64 support. 32, then it is become 64. Maximum I can use. But in the DDR4 only, I can't put DDR5. So check the compatibility. Check with CPU related compatibility, size, speed, memory type. Motherboard compatibility. Check the memory type and number of slots wise also. And another one is voltage levels. Your motherboard RAM voltage level support is also required. Okay, is it L model or H model like that? Okay, so best one is go with your old RAM. So already existing RAM. Go check with the existing RAM in the system. See what is their details. Okay, see that what is that speed, model, or a size, voltage levels. So better go with that existing or a old RAM. For while you are replacing, adding a new RAM or a replacing existing RAM or upgrading your RAM total size. For example, in my old laptop, I have a 4 GB RAM only. So later I have added a 8 GB RAM. So total it is become 12 GB. Total it is become 12 GB. How it is become 12 GB? Okay. So first of all, I checked my existing 4 GB RAM. Note down the details. What model? DDR3 model. 16000 means it is a what is how many megahertz? PC1600 model, like that it will check it. Okay, 1600 megahertz plus 180 days. Okay, low voltage. Then I purchase 8 GB RAM. So instead of taking risk, because online we don't know, so better I go to the shop, and I go to the shop and I told these details. They gave me a RAM and we put the RAM. Then okay. So that is how to upgrade or replace the RAM. Small points only, guys. Small details. That details are enough. RAM packages. Maybe some of you seen Arduino Uno board or a Raspberry Pi. On these boards also there is a built-in RAM. But the RAM mostly it is in the dip mode. Like IC, simple IC, 741 IC like that. So simple 315 IC timer, simple IC. That's a dip package. Okay, so that RAMs also there, but in our computer we don't use that kind of RAMs. Okay, next, the SIMM, single inline memory module RAMs are there. In a desktop, you see this is the desktop motherboard. This RAM model, this RAM package is SODIMM. This sorry DIMM, dual inline memory module. DIMM is for desktop purpose. It is almost size, not same size, but almost size like a your small scale. You have a 13 scale and a 15-inch scale is there. A 30 centimeter scale is there, 15 centimeter scale is there. Okay. It's like a 15 centimeter scale size only it is there. Okay. Small scale size, lengthy type. Okay. That's a DIMM. For desktop, which RAM we use? DIMM package RAM. Desktop. For laptops, SODIMM. It is smaller than DIMM package. That's why it is small outline, dual inline memory module for laptop purpose. Of course, RIM models also there. RIM is nothing but from the DIMM only. So RIM also came. RAM bus inline memory modules. Mainly for servers, we use RIMs. We can use DIMM or RIM for a servers also. Maybe people who will play games, heavy multimedia kind of stuff, continuous system desktops we are using. So in that system, servers also we use this RIM. RIM means on the on the RAM, we have a kind of heat sink. So because if you're running a system for a very long time, RAMs also get heated. RAM getting overheated, RAM will be damaged, system will be. So to prevent it, so again, we put the heat sinks on it. It absorbs the heat from your RAM. Each RAM comes with a different pin configurations. Now we don't require to go to how many pins are there. Okay. So mostly 240 pins we are having current RAMs also. Okay. Different RAMs having different number of pins in it. In a both side. So this is SC. There is input device like keyboard, monitors, storage devices. Okay. So we can't directly give input to our processor. What happened? There is a I/O controller, input output controller, I/O controller with the help of South Bridge or South Bridge. So this through South Bridge or I/O controller, you can say South Bridge or I/O controller. So we're giving instructions, input, and also we are getting output. So that entire input output memory will be managed by I/O controllers. Okay, which input? Keyboard, mouse. We are using lot of input devices, lot of output devices, different storage devices. Every device is managed by I/O controller or Southbridge. But whatever the data instructions comes, take it, understand by I/O controller, and put that information into the RAM. So it will load your instructions and data to your RAM only. The RAM is given to the CPU. First, it will go to CPU cache memory to your CPU. In CPU, that ALU, arithmetic logical unit, process your data and generate an output and give it to your cache to RAM. Now, the RAM loaded the output. That output is go to the IO controller will give it to the on the motherboard on your monitor, or maybe it will store into your hard disk or display on the screen, or maybe some other indications. Okay, so this is how it is. The RAM is in between your processor and your input output devices. Okay, RAM store the data instructions and give it to your processor process it, give it to your RAM is given to the IO controller to IO devices we are getting. So that's a RAM never store any data permanently. Not only you don't need to shut down the system also. So guys, these are the points about your RAM. Okay, understand about RAM? Mm. The last one in the RAM is an issue. Okay, so there is an issue how it is related to your RAM. Okay, what is an issue first of all? You power on your system. Maybe it is a desktop or maybe a laptop or a server it is. You just power on your system. On the system, nothing is showing. Normally you power something, it will show, no? Your logo will show. Your Lenovo. a Dell logo it will shows. Something loading symbols it will show, Windows symbol it will shows like that. But here you when you press the power button, just power on, you press the power button, the power supply is there, but power LED is blinking, but nothing on your monitor. Nothing on your monitor. This is called a blank screen or black screen error. Sometimes you may hear a beep sound, a continuous beep sound, like a long beep, short beep, long beep, two short beeps like that. Continuous beep sound depends on your system, okay, by your speakers. Power LED is blinking. You can understand there is a power supply. On monitor, no signal error also not showing. Nothing showing. Okay, no error messages, no loading symbols, not even no signal symbols. Okay, so there is a blank screen. You power on the system, nothing on the screen. Okay, you may hear a beep sound or buzz sound. Okay, power LEDs blinks. Keyboard LEDs are not blinking. Okay, so what is the most possible issue? Most possible. So here it is. Either RAM is loose connection, RAM is loosely connected, RAM failure is occurred, RAM is loose connection, RAM failure is occurred, RAM loose connection, RAM failure, test on the RAM, test on the RAM or a RAM slots. RAM may be not properly inserted. RAM failure, RAM is not working. Test deposit on the RAM. Okay, RAM slots. So what to do? This is a primary one. Maybe it is RAM or not, we don't know. But most of the cases it is RAM. What is that? You power on the system, nothing on the monitor. No error messages, no loading symbols, no signal error also not there. So most in case it is RAM issue. So what you do? First disconnect all the power supply. Remove the power cards. If it is a laptop, remove the battery also. Along with your charger, battery also remove it. Remove the cabin, open the cabin door. Remove the RAM. Clean the RAM edges with a eraser. Clean the RAM slots with a hand blower. Reinsert the RAM. Connect the power supply. Power on it. Check it. Working or not. Working? Good. Not working. Change RAM from one slot to another slot. You connect one RAM in one slot and change that RAM into another slot. Check it again. Maybe slot power. And cross verify the RAM. Put the RAM into another system. Make sure RAM is working or not. Or put a different RAM into your system. Make sure it is RAM problem or not. If RAM is not working, confirms, then put the RAM aside and buy a new RAM and start working. Okay, buy a new RAM. RAM not working means buy a new RAM. RAM is working means it can be any of the system related. Maybe it is your processor related, motherboard power supply related. Take it to the service center. Take it to the service center. So this is RAM related issues. Okay, mostly RAM loose connection. Even I faced currently facing and also I face this issue. What happened? I have a secondary laptop. So there is one batch called entity database. That's for that batch I have to take the class from my home because the time is required to spend more time. Okay, so 9 to 7 like that. So it's a full-fledged training, not more than 8 hours. So that day, what happened? I opened my laptop, old laptop also. I opened for running some applications in it. So what happened? I opened, running good. Okay, it's slowly running, but running. And then later I want to shift it from that table to my table mate. So then it can be nearby, I can easily operate. So when I'm touching it, so something RAM got touched from the bottom. Some bottom case is also not fitted properly. Maybe there is some touching, which is stop freezed. So I keep it aside and I continue my session. In the weekend, I started to open the system, tested. Um, One time, nothing, no booting. Other time, it's booted, but it is loaded only 4 GB RAM. So what I've done, I shut down the system, I remove one of the RAM, run with one RAM only. That's a 4 GB RAM running. I thought 8 GB RAM is corrupted. But I got it doubt. Again, I shut down the system, remove battery, remove main power supply. So I replaced 4 GB with 8 GB, and again I turned on the laptop. Now it is running with 8 GB, means RAM is good. I thought it is a slot problem. Then I added a 4 GB to secondary slot. I exchanged the slots and I power on the laptop, not turning on. So there is a slot problem. Then later one day I kept it aside and fully charged. I power on the laptop, both RAMs are working, 12 GB it is shown. The problem is that bottom of the laptop bottom, the cover, disturbing this connectivities. Okay. Even when it's small pressure, the bottom RAM, that's and one slot of RAM is touching with the back end one. So that created a disturbance. Immediately it got freezed. So, okay. So while this is system running, suddenly this got freezed. Express freeze. Even I move something, a keyboard, nothing is working. It got completely freezed. Sometimes it shows multiple colors on the screen. Okay, some biz colors. It is also possible. RAM. So what you have to do, remove immediately the power connection, remove the batteries, remove the RAMs, keep it for a 5 minutes, let it cool. Insert only one single in case you have multiple RAMs inserted. Only insert one RAM and check it working on working good. Again, shut down it compulsory. You should completely shut down. Remove the power supplies and reinsert another RAM. Verify it. Okay. So these are the RAM related points. Guys, understand RAM. ROM is bigger than anything. Out of all, the ROM is little bigger. Not bigger, but 3, 4 points. Yes. Like, okay. So we have to understand a lot of things in that. Guys, understand. Any doubts, any questions? Okay. So take just a 5 minutes break, relax. Then we will start with the ROM. 5 minutes break.